I really like the Denpa games on the 3DS. There were 3 games, but ever since the third one, the series had been sort of dead in the water. After the first 3 games, there were 1 or 2 new attempts at entries, but none of them ended up being released outside of Japan. The most recent one being like 7 years ago in 2017. Up to like a few months ago, I was almost 100% on the series being completely dead. And if another game did come out, I always thought it would only be in Japan and wouldn't be localized. But I was watching the Nintendo Direct in June, the one where they announced like Kodaka's new game and the fucking Funko Pop thing. And in the middle of it, Denpa just pops up, so I was completely wrong. I always thought if it came over, it'd just be like a port of the originals. But it's a completely new game and has an English translation as well. I downloaded it on release and I've gotten a solid like 45 hours in at this point. I haven't done everything, but I've gotten enough to like form an opinion. I've finished like the main story at least, plus some extra shit. The first thing I'll go over is the localization or lack of it. I was immediately suspicious to see that they had somehow managed an English version, and I was right to think that because it's clearly been done by a machine. I really dislike going over localization stuff, mostly because I just don't care, but the fact that it gets people online ear-steamingly mad is just a bonus. Even if you think machine translations are epic, based, and red-pilled. Really poorly done even for a machine translation. It's like Google Translate shit. Some lines just don't make any fucking sense at all. It's probably the most immediately noticeable thing about the game, like you can tell that shit in 5 minutes. I'm gonna guess they just didn't have enough budget for a proper translation. A lot of people are upset about the quality, and you know, it is understandable, it's really fucking bad. But I don't think there's some hypothetical alternate reality where the English translation is well done. It was a shitty AI translation or nothing. And I think in most cases, especially ones like Denpa where the story isn't the main focus, it is better than nothing. Another red flag here, the game is free to play. All of the Denpa games had small in-game purchases you could make, but it was only for like niche equips and shit. The first major change they've added is this mobile gacha game style stamina system. You can only play levels if you have enough stamina. This sorta sucks to have, but it's not my biggest grievance. Realistically, each stage might take like 20 to 30 minutes to get through. In exchange for the 45 minutes you need to recharge one stamina. I didn't really find myself running out of stamina at all. The one thing I'm really annoyed about is the limitation around Denpa. Unlike the previous entries, they no longer level up automatically in your box. And there's also weird restrictions about what kind of Denpa you can receive. With the free-to-play game, it was obvious they were gonna lock like rare Denpa behind paywalls, which I wouldn't have cared about that much, but they went way too far with it. Denpa in the old games came in single target, triple target, and target all forms, which were all fairly common except for obviously broken ones like heal all and revive all. In the new Denpa, without shelling out money, the only way to get anything but a single target form is through this fusion system. Fusion's a fine concept for a mechanic, but it isn't implemented very well. It would be way better if you could fuse like a fire and water Denpa to get a combined fire-water type attack. In fact, you fucking could do that shit in the third Denpa game. But in this one, the only way you get a new antenna through fusing is by fusing 2 of the same types. If you fuse 2 single target fire Denpa, you'll get a triple target one. 2 triple targets and you'll get an all enemies one. And this works for pretty much every antenna type. This is made worse by the fact that there are lots of restrictions around fusion. Your Denpa need to be at max happiness. This is a new and really gay feature added to the new Denpa. You basically have to build up happiness points by bringing your Denpa out on missions and feeding them food. It's pretty simple, but it takes a while to do. Alongside that, leveling up has been made much more difficult as well. There are now caps around levels. In order to get your Denpa past a certain level, you need to pay money. Until you do this, they won't earn any XP from battle. You need to have performed the limit break at least 1 time in order to fuse. Doing this also resets your happiness, by the way. You have to do this twice for both your Denpa, and then when that's done, it might just not fucking work. Some Denpa just don't fucking like each other, I guess. This whole system's gay, like really gay, like come on your eyelids, cocks in your face. It's really bad. You can't even just grind normally. You have to shell out gold, which is actually pretty fucking hard to get in this game. And denpamen not leveling up while you're in the box sort of disrupts the whole thing the game had going on, where you would switch out denpamen based on the dungeon you're going to. The game is probably a bit easier on average to make up for it, but it isn't as fun this way. There's a lot less story, only 10 stages in the main story of the game, and it scraps the open map of 2 and 3. Going back to teleporting you to dungeons directly like the first game. There's also event maps and extra stages, which have extra content and stuff to do. But the main plot is sort of underwhelming, just sort of went nowhere then ended abruptly. For what I like, I think it keeps to the spirit of the third game by having loads of extra bullshit to do. You have your own island to customize, you can buy houses for your denpamen and decorate them, there's fishing like last time and a casino. I was checking around on the subreddit when the game first released and I actually saw people complaining about the casino. It's like the most harmless thing ever. Casino coins are easy as shit to get. If you are spending real money in this game, it's not on them. If there's one thing to be grateful for about the new denpamen, it's the fact that there aren't actual gacha mechanics in the game. To be fucking grateful you get to like bet on monsters and do cool shit, fucking play slots. I fucking love gambling, but the most you can get from it is a few decent equips. Well, other than that, I really like Coda, he's a little cutie. This whole thing has been pretty negative because I've been comparing the new denpamen to its predecessors, which it's worse than, but it's still a denpamen game which I enjoy playing. Some of the puzzles are alright, I like that it reuses areas and has secret optional paths and bosses and stuff. I thought the tower level where you had to complete specific objectives in battle was real creative, even if the translation made it kinda hard to figure out what you were supposed to do. I just hope that Genius Sorority keeps updating the game and making it better. There's some parts I can't comment on yet. Online battles are there, but they haven't opened up yet, and there's only been a few events at this point which were alright. I had a decent amount of fun with it for what it is, but it isn't nearly as good as a real denpamen game. But if it does do well, maybe a real denpamen 4 will come out. I don't know how comfortable I am advocating for like a 6.5 out of 10 in the hopes that a better game will be made at some point. If the idea of denpamen interests you, you should play 3 first and then try this.